Welcome back to the Happiness Hack. I'm Tim Coulson, and thank you for being here. I want to start today with a thought experiment, and I genuinely want you to try it rather than just listen to me describe it. I want you to imagine that every label you currently carry, every role, every title, every relationship descriptor, every identity marker is temporarily removed. Not forever, but just for this moment. There's no job title, there's no family role, no ex-wife or separated dad, no the strong one or the broken one or the one who gave everything. There's just you, stripped of all those labels. Now answer this question for me. Who is standing there? Because for a lot of people, that question is met with a long silence where the answer should be. And if that is where you are right now, then this episode is exactly what you need to hear. Because today we're asking, who are you when the labels fall away? Now, human beings are meaning making creatures. We understand ourselves and we understand the world around us through stories and labels and categories. From a very young age, we learn who we are through what we're called or what we are expected to be: the eldest child, the responsible one, the provider, the peacekeeper, the one who holds it all together. And those labels can feel like identity. But here's the thing: they're not. They're just roles. And roles, by definition, are things we perform in relation to other people. They are not who we are at our core. Now, the reason that this distinction matters so much right now, for many of you listening, is that something significant has shifted in your life. Maybe that's a relationship that ended or a chapter that closed, but the structure around which you built your identity has changed. And without that structure, the question of who you actually are feels urgent, and it's genuinely frightening. And that fear is normal, but it's also an invitation. And it's quite possibly the most important invitation that you will have ever received. So the question becomes, when we receive this invitation to question who we are at our core, what are we going to do with it? Erikson is one of the most influential developmental psychologists, and he's described identity as something that is never finished. We do not figure out who we are once in adolescence and then carry that fixed identity forever. Identity is something that evolves. It can be challenged and it can be rebuilt across the entire lifespan. Now, the term identity crisis is not a pathological label, but it is a developmental necessity because it is a moment of disruption that forces us to re-examine who we are and what we actually stand for. Now, when most people experience after that life change or after that significant event, whether that's the end of a relationship, a career shift, maybe it's becoming a parent for the first time or losing your parent. Either way, it's surviving something. And that's what most of us begin to experience, is exactly this identity crisis. And that is what the Erikson sense of the identity crisis talks to. It's not a breakdown, but it is a threshold. And the research here is clear. People who move through their identity crisis with curiosity rather than panic always emerge with a stronger, more flexible, more genuine sense of self than they had before. The key word here is curiosity, not urgency, not performance, but curiosity. So I want to speak to the men in this episode first, because I think this is a particular struggle that does not get talked about enough. There is a very specific kind of identity collapse that happens to men who have built their whole sense of self around being the provider, the protector, the strong one, the man who handles it. Because that identity is not just personal, it's cultural. It is what we were modeled on. It is what was praised. It is what we were made to feel at a fundamental level that made us be enough. And then something changes. The relationship ends. The family structure shifts. The role that you played for years no longer exists in the form that you recognize it. And you're left with that question that nobody ever taught you how to answer. Who am I if I am not that? So here's what I want you to hear. The qualities that made you a good provider, a protector, a man who showed up, those did not come from the role. They came from you. The role was just one expression of values and strengths that are entirely yours. So the work now is not to find another role to fill as quickly as possible. The work is to ask, and this is possibly for the first time, what do I actually value? What kind of man do I actually want to be? Not for someone else, but for myself. And for the women in this episode, the identity question shows up slightly differently, but it is equally as profound. When you have spent years in a relationship where your sense of self was gradually shaped by other people, whether that's your husband, your kids, that other person's needs, criticism, and the narrative that they told you can help you lose touch with something essential. You lose the thread back to your own preferences, your own values, your own voice. Now, I have worked with women who genuinely could not answer a simple question like, what kind of food do you enjoy? What do you do just for fun? What makes you feel like yourself? It's not because they were unaware, but because that awareness had been systematically overridden for so long that accessing it felt impossible. So if that is where you are, I want you to know that that part of you is not gone. Yes, it's been quiet for a very, very long time, but it still responds to gentleness, to space, and to the kind of patient curiosity that we might offer a child who has been through something hard. I want you all to question yourself. What did you love before? What makes time feel like it passes quickly? What would you do with a free afternoon if nobody needed anything from you? Those questions are not frivolous. They are the breadcrumbs that start to lead you back to yourself. The most powerful tool I have found for rebuilding a sense of identity is values clarification. Not goal setting, not figuring out what you want to achieve, but getting clear on who you actually are at a value driven level. Your values are the things that matter most to you, regardless of circumstance. Honesty, connection, freedom, growth, courage. These are not things that you do. These are things that you are when you are being most honest with yourself. And the thing is that when you know your values, you actually have a compass, not a map, because a map tells you exactly where you need to go and it stops working when that terrain changes. But a compass always points to what matters. And in a life that has had many terrain changes, where you've had unexpected situations crop up, a compass is exactly what you need. So here's where we start to build the happiness hack for this week. And it's not an easy one, but it is a simple one. Your happiness hack this week is this value driven exercise. So I want you to think of 3 moments in your life when you have felt most genuinely yourself. They don't have to be big moments. In fact, they can be small, quiet, ordinary moments. But they're moments where something in you felt aligned, right, real. For each moment, ask yourself, what was present in that moment? What quality? What value? What way of being made it feel? I want you to write them down if you can. Sit with them. Let them remind you of the person you are, and the person you are looking for was never actually missing. They've just been waiting for you to ask. Because when we take away these labels, these roles that we play, we start to find more of our authentic self. And authenticity is the key to happiness. So thank you for sitting with this one today. Identity-based questions are not comfortable, but they are among the most important questions that a human being can ask. You are more than your roles. You are more than your history. So if this resonated and you're ready to do that inner work, then follow along or send me a message, because the next chapter of your story is waiting for you to write it. I'm Tim Coulson. This is the Happiness Hack, and the day is what you make it.